ever notice how we all say we want deeper connection, but then when it comes down to it, we end up kind of staying more surface level? It's such a hard thing to want to be close to others, but at the same time, we don't want to feel like we're a burden. We don't want to make things awkward, and we don't want to end up oversharing. I've been thinking lately about how lonely it can feel to hold hard things inside, especially when it seems everyone around you is handling things just fine. And mom, I know you've seen this a lot. People often carrying around so much hard stuff, but not knowing how to let it be seen.
Yes, I sure have. And there are so many reasons that many of us try to keep things light. A lot of times we feel like we're trying to protect others, maybe by not sharing what we're really going through, or maybe we're, not wanting to worry others, or somehow we feel like we're wanting to model being strong for our friends or family. And I know for myself, oftentimes as a parent, I would try to hold things within myself lightly or quietly just to make sure everybody else felt steady and supported. And I think that's often the case if we are in any sort of caretaking role. We will kind of hold to ourselves what is going on with us just so everybody else is, feeling like things are okay and they're okay. And I think also from the broader cultural perspective, there's a real sense of kind of a positivity that is in the water in which we swim, in that we don't want to bring things down and we want to keep things upbeat. So that can oftentimes be such a barrier to people sharing honestly about what they're going through. And, it really has come to the sense of when people say, "How are you?" I think many of us don't really think that people are genuinely asking us that question. It's just something people say to kind of get on with whatever the conversation is going to be, that people don't really care. When they say, "How are you?" it's just more of a formality than anything. So I think all of these pieces really do come into play and make it extra hard for us to share what's really going on for us and to be genuine about what it is we're facing.
And for all those reasons you shared, that's why so many of us are walking around holding these hard things inside and thinking that we're the only one dealing with it. And so there's a sort
That's
of
right.
like magic that can happen when somebody goes first and somebody takes a step of sharing something hard with someone else. I've noticed that once someone in a conversation shares something real about them, the whole mood and tone of the conversation shifts after that. Almost like you've pulled back the curtains of pretending to talk about what is real and what's actually going on. That honesty creates permission within that conversation with the other person. It creates permission to be vulnerable as well, to know that you're in a safe space to share. And when somebody goes first and it is vulnerable, that's showing that they believe they're in a safe place with you. So it creates a bit of safety for you as well to open up and share if that feels right for you. I would say depth invites depth. And a lot of times we're all just waiting for somebody to be the one to start.
That is so important what you're saying, because when somebody has the emotional courage to be even just a little bit vulnerable and to share what it is that they're struggling with, it does open up for everybody else to say, "Oh my gosh, me too. Oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this."
I totally agree, mom. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about sharing your whole life story or suddenly telling this person everything that you've never told them before. It's just about letting others see you as a real person, not just some polished version of yourself, but as, the bigger picture of who you are and what you're going through. So, when you think about connection between family members, friends, what changes when somebody goes first?
So one of the things that happens is that it ends up being a real gift for the other person when they get a chance to know you a little more deeply, when they get the chance to witness just a little bit more about who you really are. People like to be known, and then others like to know other people. So what you're allowing when you go first in sharing is you're allowing this process to happen. Here's a person who is sharing something more that you might not have known about them, and then here's the other person who gets to receive that gift and then maybe return that gift to say, oh my gosh, me too, or I'm so thankful to know that about you. It's such a nice thing to know you better. It really does start just a wonderful, genuine connection opportunity for people to be in kind of a deeper place together.
Yes, Mom, what you're naming is that ripple effect of when someone shares something personal, then it feels safer for somebody else to share too. And it just creates such a connection there and a shared vulnerability that feels very safe. And I think us humans really desire that depth with each other. Because when you offer honesty to somebody else, you're not demanding it back, but you're making like a nice space for it.
And you know, I think it's important to note here too, you mentioned safe space, and it's important to remember that not every space is a safe space for vulnerability, and that's okay. I think it's important to be very discerning about spaces that do feel like this is a safe space where I can, have a bit of emotional courage and a bit of vulnerability and share something of myself, but then know that there are spaces where that may not feel like a good thing to do. And it's important to know that, and to know where you feel okay about sharing some of yourself and where you don't feel okay. So it's important to choose who feels trustworthy to you, who feels like someone that you can trust with this little piece of yourself. And also, it may be important to pace yourself as you're trying to share a bit of yourself with others. Maybe sharing just a little bit is a good place to start and see how that conversation goes. The person can show themselves to be trustworthy or not. And then also noticing whether someone is really listening and leaning in and wanting to know more, or whether that person is trying to minimize you or your feelings or what you've gone through. Because again, not every space is going to be a safe place to put pieces of yourself.
Thank you so much for bringing that up because I think it is important to be selective about where you share. Because that's not shutting down, it's protecting yourself. Especially because a lot of us have fears around sharing. Maybe we've been misunderstood or even ostracized in the past for sharing. Or maybe we fear that we'll share too much and have that vulnerability hangover the next day. Like, why did I say that? But like you were saying, you don't have to share everything to be real. You can start with something small. So, an example might be, this season is actually feeling a lot harder than I expected. Or another thing you can say when someone asks you, how are you doing? You can say, I don't really know how I'm doing right now. It feels like a lot. And sometimes just one honest sentence like this is enough to change the atmosphere of the conversation, and it can open up the gate into something more. But those sentences may be a good way to test the waters and make sure that you are in a good place to share and just see how that feels for you.
That is so true. And so often when we share just a bit of realness about ourselves, it really does soften our relationships with each other, and allows for a bit of connection that just was not able to be there before.
True connection comes from letting ourselves just be human together. And related to that, I would love to know, viewers, what makes you feel safe to open up and share part of yourself with somebody else? Please let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining my mom and I on this Secular Sunday. My name is Michelle. That's my mom, Ashley. Please like, subscribe, and we will connect again with you soon.